Welcome to the Rich Report, a podcast with news and information on high-performance computing and cloud computing. Today, my guest is from IBM. We have Ric Telford. Ric is the Vice President of IBM Cloud Services. Now, Ric, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. I understand IBM had a number of announcements at an event last week. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure, Rich. Thanks, and hello, everyone. As Vice President of Cloud Services at IBM, I've been involved in driving our cloud strategy for the last several years. I think we've come to an inflection point in the cloud market now, and our announcement sort of is, reflective of that. The industry's moved past this hype, and our clients, anyway, are really grappling with the best way to incorporate cloud into their IT environment. I look forward to this discussion and sharing some of our insights. So if you go to the next slide, I want to start by grounding the discussion with the progress that's been made in the enterprise market over the last couple of years as it relates to cloud. 2007, 2008, we really started seeing the signs the new computing model was emerging. We were at the beginning stages of understanding what that meant and the impact of billions of internet-connected, self-service devices that joined large groups around the planet. And as customer experience started to spill into our business, employee and customer needs and expectations changed. But at the same time, we were hit by this U.S. financial crisis, which forced us all to look at our budgets and for new cost-saving measures. And that's about when cloud computing really started taking off as a term, picking up speed in IT circles, and became synonymous, though, at that time with cost-cutting. Cost was the primary driver of cloud deployments during that time. If you go to the next slide, we fast forward to 2009, 2010, and you couldn't go to an IT conference or meeting without hearing about cloud. But the problem was there were multiple definitions, promises without clear roadmaps, issues with security and governance, migration, etc. So while we all want to take a closer look at cloud, there was a real concern that when you start talking to enterprise clients, they want to talk about mission-critical data. Every company had a different starting point, and different end-state visions. People were looking where to start. So at least with a lot of our clients, we started with trial implementations, private cloud implementations, development and test, less mission-critical. But that didn't sort of, alleviate the need at that time. Clients were still saying they need, security, migration tools, the kinds of things that you look for in an enterprise IT. If you go to the next slide, let's talk about where we are now, because I really think we're at the tipping point. Enterprise clients are moving from these sandbox projects to full-scale production. We're talking about moving mission-critical applications like SAP to the cloud. Companies realize that cloud computing is more than just a way to reduce cost. It can now help organizations reinvent the way they do business and give them more agility. Cloud's opening up the possibility for new businesses and new industry models to emerge, and we're seeing increasing need to interact and share data, and cloud's a great way to do that. It's sort of this, company without boundaries sort of approach. If you go to the next slide, I want to spend a couple minutes on what does this really mean. As cloud computing becomes more pervasive, clear and well-defined approaches are starting to pop up. And then what you see here on this slide is sort of what IBM has seen as adoption patterns for emerging for successfully beginning and progressing cloud. First, going back to the early days of cloud, clients are cutting IT expenses and complexity through data center optimization. This primarily addresses immediate needs for cutting IT expense, and it typically involves things like consolidation, virtualization, standardization, automation. Next, we're seeing clients accelerate time to market to increase their profitability and competitive advantage by being able to more rapidly build and deploy and manage new services. These projects are characterized by standardized and automated provisioning of full topologies for predefined workloads. If you know what topology you're going to need, you can much quicker get time to value with that type of application or workload. The third pattern is centered on clients gaining immediate access to enterprise-class software, so software as a service, such as collaboration, business process management, analytics, email, B2B, dev test. These are all some we've seen. Service desk, for example, marketing analytics. These are all SaaS applications that we've worked with our clients on. And finally, we're seeing clients primarily in the telco space become their own cloud service providers as they want to capitalize on new business models and revenue sources by offering cloud-based services. So this is the range of patterns we've seen, and we've been focused on being able to be the key enterprise supplier across this range of adoption patterns. If you go to the next slide, one thing that hasn't changed over the last few years is that enterprises are not willing to compromise on requirements around security, governance, and service management. And this is something, I wholeheartedly believe. As I've been working in this for the last few years, that's what I tell clients. I say, just because you're moving a workload to the cloud doesn't mean you need to start compromising. Because, we're not talking about photo sharing in the cloud here. We're talking about your data and your customers' data. And in today's business environment, data and the insights garnered from that data is king. So you shouldn't compromise on migration, business process management, and security. These are all things that you should be able to ask for from your cloud provider. And in particular, if you're not careful, companies can end up trading in old problems for newer, bigger ones, which is something we've seen in the past in IT, where you go to a new technology and you don't really see the gains because you've just created new problems. For example, integrating traditional IT environments with cloud environments and integrating across multiple cloud environments, you have to think about that holistically. If you start moving some workloads out to the cloud, they still have to talk to and integrate with workloads that are still inside your firewall. So how do you deal with those integration issues? So those are some of the key things we're seeing as far as requirements that enterprises have that they shouldn't be compromising on. If you go to the next slide, this starts to talk about what IBM's doing. This is the IBM SmartCloud. As we developed our cloud offerings and capabilities, we knew that we had to think through the issues that our clients are facing. So we built this cloud platform that responds to the complex challenges associated with service management, security, governance, those type of enterprise considerations. And we built a platform that supports those requirements based on our common reference architecture. So we delivered several years ago a cloud reference architecture that really, in building that architecture, we thought through what are the key requirements for a stable, secure platform for cloud. IBM SmartCloud is built to maximize our service delivery and economics through choices relative to how much management support you need, what kind of deployment options, what kind of security and isolation policies you have, availability and performance SLAs, payment and billing, and other aspects of the technology platform. This is about choice, giving you, the client, unprecedented levels of definition to support the variety of different workloads. It's not, the cloud shouldn't be one size fits all, take it or leave it. What IBM's focus has been is workloads are different, requirements are different, so provide different features in the platform. And the initial offerings we have in the infrastructure as a service layer, one is called Enterprise, and that gives you rapid access via the internet. It's ideal for developing and deploying new application designs. It provides instant access to standard server configurations and a catalog of IBM and partner software, in addition to providing the hourly pay-per-use model that a lot of folks like about the cloud and the most advanced administrative functions in the industry. Enterprise Plus is really built for production cloud requirements and their most critical applications, whether it's the migration of things like ERP or running higher availability on applications, such as we'll be talking about here in a few minutes. So let's go to the next slide. Just like we've identified common adoption patterns across the spectrum of cloud, we're seeing clients achieve significant results on our SmartCloud Enterprise platform around dev test, batch processing, and web applications. All three of these are pretty straightforward. Development and test is is pretty obvious because of the fact it's pre-production, and it also gives you the power of the internet, so development teams and test teams across the globe can collaborate very easily. Batch processing applications, we've seen things like actuarial analysis, genome modeling, or other industry-specific applications where they need a lot of compute power for a defined period of time. And leveraging the cloud is a great way to do that, so you just don't have to buy all the hardware you used to have to, have inside your data center just to run these batch applications. And then, of course, there's web applications. Websites and applications are on an organization's face to the world, so having them run in the cloud gives you an easy way to put something on the internet, but also gives you the flexibility of handling volumes as they scale up and down. If we go to the next slide, these are just a few of the examples that we have, some of the clients that we have on IBM SmartCloud Enterprise today running in these different use cases or patterns: development test, batch processing, web applications. A great example for development and test was a public broadcasting company that had a project designed to transform their tape-based system into digital format. Well, anyone familiar with media knows that that's going to be a compute-intensive process. So by provisioning virtual machines in the IBM Cloud, they were able to do that provisioning in hours rather than days to respond to the needs of their audience. A good example in batch processing was we had some researchers from a science and technology university we partnered with to use cloud computing to conduct research focused on new antibiotics to fight disease. And then finally, from a web applications perspective, this was a software vendor who created a collaborative website for a government-sponsored innovation challenge to help improve education. And it needed to be done very quickly, and so they turned to the IBM SmartCloud and were able to get that done in much faster than they would have been able to do in a non-cloud sort of world. If we go to the next slide, we know that most clients are going to need more than just infrastructure support. So we started with our infrastructure as a service application or a platform, but now we're seeing more than that. If you look at the slide, you can sort of see the contrast of the terms infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Cloud is all about trade-offs. If you're willing to trade in customization for a more standard environment, then you'll get the benefit of lower costs and the faster time to value. And that is really what happens as you move up the stack from, say, a traditional IT deployment to an infrastructure as a service deployment to a platform to a SaaS deployment. If you're willing to accept the more standardized approach, the more automated approach, but in return you're going to lower your capex and your opex. The critical thing to understand, though, is how you target different workloads and applications to delivery models. You might say email is a good SaaS model, and so you'll be looking for a SaaS application for that. But you may feel differently about some of your more complex applications. But either way, IBM as an IT vendor sees the need to support and deliver IT services across all these models. So if we go to the next slide, we're taking all that experience and input from clients, and in the last week we've announced our SmartCloud Application Services, or Platform as a Service layer. Our application services are designed to provide the client-defined cloud required to develop, deploy, manage, and integrate enterprise applications. SmartCloud Application Services provide services for application developers to design, develop, and maintain applications in the cloud. Application resources such as databases as a service are available on demand, pay-per-use resources where IBM operates, administers, and maintains the database. The more you allow the platform to do some of the heavy lifting for you, the less it takes to manually manage an application, and therefore gives you much greater time to value. I want to talk a little bit about what does this mean from an application perspective. And you can see these are some of the enhancements or advancements, I should say, we have made or we've seen in some of our clients when you have an application service layer that you've written your application to. Getting a development team environment set up can go from weeks to hours. The amount of administration you need per database is a lot less. Application integration, much faster. Provisioning of SAP test environments goes from weeks to minutes, literally. And, of course, the amount of application administration you need would go down because the managed services are built into the platform. So these are the advantages of something like IBM SmartCloud Application Services when you're thinking about where you want to run that next set of workloads. The next slide talks about a specific workload, which is SAP. As we've mentioned, cloud has this power to transform your traditional and legacy application environments, and so SAP was a good one that we felt to look at. In proof of concept and some early pilots we did with clients, we've seen significant benefits in applying cloud to some of their most labor-intensive SAP tasks, and you can see that here. It helps speed deployment of an SAP system as well as reducing provisioning times of SAP systems. This is part of something we call IBM SmartCloud for SAP, and it'll be one of the key production workload solutions we'll be delivering with the platform and the IBM SmartCloud Enterprise. If you go to the next slide, I just want to close on this concept of the service delivery platform, highlighting that our basis for differentiation in the cloud marketplace is rooted in the development and deployment of a single IBM-wide platform, which we call IBM SmartCloud. We talked about the infrastructure and platform layers, and on top of that, we'll be able to provide a variety of managed services from both IBM and our ecosystem of partners. The SmartCloud platform will host industry solutions and that IBM Software Group is building, such as smarter commerce, social business, as well as other SaaS capabilities. Finally, the beauty of the IBM SmartCloud platform is that it can either be delivered as a managed service or clients can take the architectural design and we can build a private cloud for them. So it's one architecture regardless of the deployment model, on the public cloud, on a managed private cloud, or on a fully private cloud. So if you go to the next slide, we're going to wrap up here. The work we're doing and the offerings that we just announced are all in response to what our enterprise clients are telling us they need. We want to be their cloud partner of choice for their mission-critical enterprise workloads, and we think we're in an excellent position to serve this market. So I hope you enjoyed what you heard today and enjoyed the webcast, and you can learn more at ibm.com/smartcloud. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for that, Rick. A couple questions for you. I'm really curious about the genesis of this, right? I mean, because you guys have been doing cloud for a while. I mean, what was the initiative that they put in front of the development team? Was it we've got to make this simpler? We've got to make it more comprehensive? What was the call to action?
Well, that's a very good question. So the call to action was, what do we need to make cloud really consumable in enterprise? You know, we have been a vendor of choice for enterprise IT for many years now, so we understand the demands, and we believe in the cloud delivery model. But from what we saw in the marketplace in 2007, 2008, 2009 timeframe, we knew that wasn't going to meet the needs of our demanding enterprise clients. So it really was, if you can think of the call to action, which is what do clients need to run production applications in the cloud, and therefore let's build what they need to do that. And so that meant a certain architecture that had built-in security, different security models, different isolation models, strong data governance, a built-in backup, the ability to have managed services, so you didn't have to do that yourself. You deploy your application to SmartCloud Enterprise Plus, and we do the backup, and we do the monitoring, and we do those managed services you need to run a production application. So, you know, we knew what it took to run an enterprise application, and we built those. So the development team was, mission to put those into the cloud.
And then, what's been your biggest challenge? You've been talking about this for a little while now, at least a week, as far as conveying, what the offering is. So, I mean, What is there any kind of obstacle or hump you got to get over to get them to realize really what you're up to here?
Well, I think for our more customers that have been doing cloud for a while, I think it's been a very clear story, very aha moment sort of thing in the last week, saying, okay, IBM really gets what I need to do. The biggest challenge is for clients that are just coming into cloud. A lot of this might seem like it's 2 or 3 steps down the road, which it probably is. So,
yeah.
The biggest challenge is that every client's at a different maturity level in their thinking about cloud and their deployment and usage of cloud. And so this is a lot to understand and comprehend if you're just coming into cloud. But we believe that this should be a managed sort of model, a strategy that says start simple, grow fast. So with those clients that are just now getting started in cloud, we still believe you don't need to jump right to the production cloud. Start with development and test, some simpler workloads, and get a feel for the delivery model that the cloud represents.
So if I was a customer, Rick, and this all made sense to me, what would be the self-test a customer could run through to see if this is going to be the right kind of fit for what they want to do?
Well, I think there's a few things. I think one of the things you want to do is you want to do a test in each of the different possible environments and start to get a feel for what the pluses and minuses are, and then start mapping what you think the best workloads is. So when I say the different environments, we have pure SaaS models. So maybe do a trial of some email or some web conferencing that we offer as a pure SaaS model, and then think about what does that. Are there applications that you'd like to just stop managing yourself and leverage in a software as a service model from IBM? Do some testing on our SmartCloud. We have a promotion running right now out on the IBM.com/SmartCloud site that you can sort of kick the tires and see what kind of workloads would make sense to move out to that model. So doing trials in the different delivery models that we offer and then learning through those experiences is probably one of the things that we would strongly recommend.
Sure. So kind of a wrap-up question here, Rick. I'm fascinated by this idea as cloud as an enabler for all new kinds of business models. Do you have any kind of anecdotes around that with customers where you were able to enable something that was just like a pipe dream for them, like a whole new line of business?
Well, we've seen a number in, I referenced one in the media industry. We're seeing a lot in that area of data digitalization, where projects that used to run for months, or even I remember we were in a digital library project 10 years ago where we were digitizing information that ran into years because people were limited by the compute capacity that they had purchased. This totally turns that on its head. So now you look at a project, and digitization in media is just one example, but that's one that we've seen a number of, where people say, I've never been able to do this project before because it was just going to take too long and hog up all our computers and be very difficult to do. That now they were dusting off these kinds of projects of digitization of whether it be tape or whether it be documents or books or what have you, because they have access to this almost limitless compute power that we have in the IBM Cloud. So when you think about the projects that have stalled in the past because of compute power needs or the ability to fluctuate high spikes and down to low volumes that used to be cost prohibitive because you would require to buy too much hardware, those are now all made possible by the cloud.
Well, Ric Telford, I want to thank you once again for coming on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Okay, well, thanks again. That's it, folks. Stay tuned for more news and information on high-performance computing.